Good morning, Charles. How are you today?
Spectacular, Dan. Thank you. How are you?
I'm well.
I am coming at you from an old location, but a new angle. I finished some of the, well, I shouldn't say I finished. I began some of the rearranging / improvement of my camper, where I'm going from a 2-person booth dinette thing to a long, narrow desk along one side. So now my background is my kitchen instead of my wardrobe. And so you can see some of the most important things in my life: my coffee maker, my jar of creatine, all the things that make life worth living.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it looks good. I like it. It's cleaner. It makes you look like a human being. You're not, trapped in some closet somewhere. It's actually a lot more inviting to look at from my side here. So I appreciate that. My eyes thank you.
Yeah, if we ever do anything with these videos, then somebody can enjoy the look there. So we'll see.
Yeah.
How's your week going?
Week's been a little busy for me, a little bit busier than I would like in terms of multiple tasks. I was just telling somebody last night at Run Group. I always like a busy, productive week, but when it's multiple different themes, it just wears me out, where I'm kind of task switching my brain from one business or one type of task to another. It just really wears me down. So that's the kind of week I had. But I'm knocking some stuff off. I'm squaring some things away. Most importantly, I cleaned out and got my portable hot tub up and running again.
Excellent.
That was out of commission for a while, and it took a lot of more elbow grease than anticipated to clean that thing. But I got it nice and clean. I got it up and running. It's hot. It's ready to go. So I'm looking forward to enjoying that after a couple of longer runs this week. But it was overall, it was a good week. Yeah.
Nice. I in addition to working on my camper and rearranging some stuff in a way that I'm happy about, the diet's still chugging along. Still, I don't know. I'm feeling like I'm plateauing a little bit, where I'm not seeing the number go down every day like it was. In the upper 150s now, and I'm just trying to remind myself that the result that I'm looking for is not a number on the scale. It's what I see in front of my eyeballs. And so I'm trying not to get too discouraged. But man, when you get addicted to that, seeing 4, 6, 8 ounces dropping off every time you weigh in the morning, it's hard to say goodbye to that and still feel like you're moving forward.
Remember, your body does not go in a straight line down, right? It's going to expect it. It's going to go back up for a little bit, might be a week or two. Stick with it. Just stay consistent. Yeah. Your body needs to make a lot of changes on the inside, all these adjustments for everything that's going on there at your new weight. So, know that this is part of the process. Expect you're going to probably plateau, maybe even gain a pound or two, but then you'll make progress again. So it's a marathon.
Yeah, it sure is. And I hate marathons. I want to, like BJ Fogg talks about, it's that big, go big or go home mentality, where it's like, I want to do something real big right now and see a real big result right now. And, just getting used to the idea of, no, it's the little things over long periods of time that get you what you want. And that is not how I'm naturally wired at all.
That's not how most of us are wired at all. That's why plastic surgery is so huge. That's why everybody's willing to chomp down a pill with just even the hopes of something drastic happening. Screw the side effects. If there's like a 1% chance of it working for me, I'll take it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the mentality behind, scratching off lottery tickets. And it's interesting. I had my session with Renata my therapy session with Renata on Wednesday, and the topic of Ozempic came up. And in Brazil, that is not a prescription. You could just buy it over the counter. So she said people in Brazil, where she's from, are just going crazy. Like, everybody's getting on it now.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So yeah, it's trying to do as much with as little effort as possible. I get it, man. That is my cup of tea. If I can make things work that way, then I try. But yeah, changing your body in a healthy way for a long term, it doesn't seem like there's any free lunches or easy outs. They're all
right.
Slow and steady is the only way that works, unfortunately. Speaking of which, I've been doing a step challenge on the Way Better app pretty much nonstop for the last 6 or 8 weeks. Excuse me. And my goal is it's starting to feel very high, because they bump it up, as you continue to do these challenges, your average goes up. And so they want you to stretch past your average every challenge. So now my normal days are 13,000. My stretch days are 15,000. And I am finding I cannot just get those with, going for a mile walk in the morning before work. It takes much more deliberate time and effort. The other night I was a few thousand steps shy. So I drove over to downtown Celebration, where I used to live. And I had to do 3 laps around the lake to get up to where I needed to be for my step goal that day. And it's a good time. I always have a podcast or a book I want to listen to or enjoy. And but yeah, I also enjoy just laying on my bed at night and watching some TV on my phone or on my television set. But I enjoy getting these challenges done a little bit more. So as long as that keeps up, I guess I'll keep doing it. Yeah.
I get it. Same thing for me. I'm doing the Way Better, 5K challenge, and it's forcing me to do running on days I'm on the fence or don't want to do it at all, because I just want that sense of completion. So I can see that, being a challenge, but yours is constantly increasing. Mine is staying the same. I'm not actually increasing it every time. So it's not pushing me quite as much as you. So I guess, my question to you is, your why that you're doing this step challenge. Like, what's the result and the outcome that you want to get by completing it? And are you going to do another one, or after you finish this, you're done? What are your thoughts?
No, I'm going to keep doing it, because part of it is, I'm using that food tracking app, the what's it called? I forget it is. Chronometer. I'm using Chronometer, and whenever I go on a walk and I select on my Apple Watch that I'm about to do an outdoor walk, it records the walk and my heart rate. It records the my pace, the distance I cover, all that stuff. And then Chronometer imports that, and it adjusts the amount of calories I have left for that day based on the physical activity I've engaged in. So, I definitely still believe, as the science clearly indicates, you can't outwalk a bad diet. You can't just, go walking for 2 hours and then think you get to eat anything. But, going for that 2-hour walk, which is what it usually averages out to, it is the difference between getting to have, some apple slices and a little bit of peanut butter before bed, or not getting to do that. And so it's right there in black and white on my phone. And so it makes it, even right now my step challenge is 4 active days and 1 power day, and then 2 days off. But I don't feel like taking the 2 days off, because I want that buffer in, I want the physical activity, and I also want to be able to free up, those 400 or 500 calories so that I can have a snack if I want to.
I was just, and I think that's great. I was just saying, it sounded like you were a little concerned about it keeping increasing. And my thought was, well, exponentially, it can't keep going, it can't keep not increasing forever. And then also at the same time is, what kinds of other things are you sacrificing because, that you have to now do those extra steps? Are those things that are things that you really want to be doing, and now you're kind of ignoring some things that you really want to do, and cutting off your.
It's really just, I'm swapping out. The way I see it is it doesn't feel like a hardship yet, because again, I am listening to podcasts and I am listening to books, and so I'm I'm being entertained while I'm doing it. So really all I'm trading is entertainment of one kind from another. So I could be sitting in my chair here or laying in my bed watching a TV show that I, is on my list to binge on Netflix or Amazon or whatever. But instead of that kind of entertainment where I'm, sedentary and idle and just watching and listening to something, instead I'm going for walks and I'm just listening to something. And so
okay, it's not like you're too exhausted to do something the next day with a girlfriend or something like that. It's not like affecting other parts of your life. Okay.
See, and that's one of the things I love so much about walking. And one of the guys I follow on YouTube and Instagram, one of the fitness coaches, he's like, the great thing about low impact, steady state cardio is you'll burn fat and you will pretty much, in almost every case, from going on a brisk walk, you will be 100% recovered from just a brisk walk when you wake up the next day. It's not like, when you go heavy with high intensity interval training, or when you're lifting heavy and you might need a couple days to recover. It's like, no, if you go for a comfortable but brisk walk for 2 hours, you wake up the next morning and it really has no impact on you. Where other types of physical activity have a little bit heavier of a cost that you bear.
Yeah, I was just wondering because the step count's getting up there, so
it is. Yeah, pretty soon
I'll be getting to the point of where you're waking up the next day and you're like, I'm feeling this a little bit,
Well, the other thing I did notice is I'm going to probably buy a new pair of shoes today, because my favorite sneakers that I like to wear for fashion purposes are retro Reeboks. I like Reeboks that are like 80s style Reeboks. And they've got that 80s style footbed technology instead of some of the newer stuff that's out right now. So I'm thinking of getting a pair of newer tech like Adidas running shoes or something like that, since I'm going to be putting in more steps. The most comfortable shoes I have right now are my trail running Merrells that whenever I go to a big city or I go hiking, I usually bring those along. But I don't want to wear them out just walking around streets in my neighborhood when they're for trail running. And so I'm thinking of buying a walking or jogging shoe today that'll be a little bit more comfortable, because when my step count starts hitting 15, 20,000 steps in a day, I do start getting a little bit of tired feet and a little bit of upper back neck pain too from all those steps. And so if a $75 pair of shoes is going to make that more bearable and keep me in the game longer, I'm just going to go buy a pair.
Yeah, I just got a new pair myself for running, and I forget, how worn down my other ones were, because I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much more spring in my step. It's so much more comfortable on my feet. And I'm like, why did I wait so long to get a pair? Have you ever gone to like the running store and get it like your feet molded and so you can figure out, okay, do you have a, are you pro? Are you,
yes,
protracted? Or are you,
the first time I ever did a couch to 5K, I did that. And, running is a whole nother issue because, honestly, if the step count keeps going up, just from a timing perspective and an efficiency perspective, running would help me get through these steps a lot faster than going for a brisk walk would. But I still hate running, and I am not trying to train for something. I'm trying to just get my body fat down. So I think that, whether I underpronate or overpronate or any of that stuff, I don't think that matters quite as much. If I'm just going for, 19, 20-minute mile pace walks, I don't think it matters.
Protracted. You're right. Pronated. That's the word I was looking for. Oh my God. So funny. I couldn't think of it this morning, but it is important though to look at the right kind of shoe, because when we run the part of our foot that hits the ground is a lot different than when we're walking.
Right.
So it might not be bad to just go and, say, hey, look, I'm looking for a walking shoe rather than a running shoe. And, I'm under or overpronated, whatever that is. And once I figured out and I bought a shoe specifically for my pronation, it makes a difference. It really does, especially, and you'll definitely notice it considering how much you're walking.
Oh, interesting.
So
yeah, maybe.
And they're not that crazy expensive at those stores. So I think it might be worth it, just to.
Well, you also have the option to, go to one of those stores and get checked out and then take their advice to Amazon.
Right.
I mean,
yes, correct.
Obviously support
correct.
local business, blah, blah, blah. But that was the thing I used to do when I was real heavy into renewing my IT certifications. I would go browse the shelf at Barnes & Noble and figure out, okay, what is the best book to help me study for this test? And then I'd go on Amazon and buy it for half the price. And that's
probably not the only one, right?
Yeah, that's why Barnes & Noble probably took a bit of a hit for a while. And it's interesting. They're coming back quite a bit. I think post Corona, if you want to call that what we are doing right now, post
Right.
yeah, people being stuck inside so much have it's kind of reignited the interest in bookstores and going to bookstores and going there and enjoying a coffee and reading a book and being around other people. So Barnes & Noble is doing pretty well, and there's also some local bookstores that I've had on my list for a while to go check out and see what they're about. And with as many books as you and I buy and read, it's good to support the local businesses if we can.
Definitely worth it.
But then again, everybody, not many people, to have unlimited funds for books, you have to start Amazon.com, and the rest of us have to shop on price a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, sure. Okay, let's talk about the new chapter in our book here, Approaching Women. And this is an interesting one. This is a practice I have never engaged in. When I married pretty young. And so when I got single again after my divorce, the idea of just seeing an attractive woman and going to talk to her, never really worked for me for a couple levels, for a couple reasons at a couple levels. Number one, certainly approach anxiety, the idea of just walking up to a stranger for almost any reason and just starting a conversation with them makes me extremely uncomfortable. I don't want to do that. And secondly, going and starting a conversation with a woman in particular only on the basis of finding her physically attractive also doesn't appeal to me, because I guess if you're in the right setting, if you're in an organization, in an environment where something about shared interests, shared values, then maybe it would be more appealing. But just the idea of we both happen to be in this bar or this restaurant or this nightclub at the same time, and I like the way she looks, so I'm going to go invest some time and energy in speaking to her. That never did it for me.
Same with me. I have not approached many women, in person. Most of my long-term relationships, I think all of them actually, have been, and I've met them online, where I know that they are looking for something that I can give them, right? Whereas out in the world, you have no idea. You're basically going around asking them for something. Right? You're asking them for their time and attention. You're asking that you're basically interrupting them for whatever they are focused on. Right. And you are asking, you're basically saying, hey, let's at least have a conversation. So you are asking something. You're not giving something necessarily. Yeah. You are giving some of your time and attention, but they didn't ask for that. You don't know if they want that. Right. And so the way I look at it is, if you want to break it down, almost like like you're a salesman at that point. Right. But you're a salesman, and it's not it's a cold lead. You have no idea. Right. You don't know if they're single. You don't know if they're interested, and so it's a big ask to, I feel, meet people in person, or to try to, meet a romantic interest in person. That's not easy to do.
Well, yeah. And let's talk about the other side, like the people who would argue with us. What would they say? We'll do a little bit of steel manning of the other side of this argument.
Yeah.
So
let's do it.
The other side of the argument would be, okay, well, you don't just approach people merely on the fact that you like the way they look. You wait for women to give you some sort of an indicator of interest. She makes eye contact. She smiles. She looks at you and touches her hair. There are things you can take note of that will communicate to you whether you have a good chance or a bad chance of being able to strike up a conversation. And I believe that to all be true. I think that's probably likely.
I agree. No argument for me.
The other thing is, yes, she has not asked you to approach. You don't know if she wants you to talk to her. What this author would say, I believe, is that just the mere act of you going over and starting a communication with her, not knowing that she wants it, is something that will make you more attractive to her, because you're willing to do something that most men are not willing to do.
That's fair.
And you're basically saying, I want to start a conversation with you, and you might not be into it. You may say no thanks, or you may tell me to piss off, but either way, I'll be okay. And I'm doing this because I want to do it. I want to see what happens. And that attitude is one that women find attractive, at least, generally speaking, they do. So yeah, it's really up to every guy to decide if it's worth the risk. I would say that if you're single and you're putting yourself in environments where you have reason to believe that the attractive women in that environment share your interests, they share your values, they may have something interesting to say or contribute to your life, then you should at least be open to the idea of doing some experiments with going to talk to those women. Again, if it's just we both happen to be, randomly at Mathers on a Friday night at 9 p.m. and that's all you know about each other, that if number one, I don't go to Mathers at 9 p.m. on a Friday alone. I'm there with my friends, and my purpose to be there is to make you and Kurt and Richard laugh, and to have you guys make me laugh, and to tell stories and to talk about interesting things with, the news and politics. And that's what I'm there for. I'm not there to meet women. And obviously I have a girlfriend now, but even when I didn't, that was the case. I wasn't there to go out and meet people. Yeah. I was there to have fun with my friends. And the thing to remember, we talked about in our last episode about bars and clubs, is women are usually there for the same reason. They're there to have fun with their friends. They're not there to, entertain offers from suitors. They're there to have fun with their friends, maybe enjoy a little bit of attention because, they're having a couple drinks and cutting loose, and they look pretty. They did their hair and their makeup and put on a nice
and they
dress.
Put some time in, right. Exactly. Put some time and effort into it. Sure.
So they may want some interest and attention, but your goal for being at that place may not be, I just want to give away interest and attention, but there's a good chance that that's all they're there for. And so if your goals don't align, there's probably not going to be much that happens. Whereas if you are, at your favorite independent bookstore, your favorite coffee shop, you're at your, Dungeons and Dragons club or your run club or whatever, then it may make a little bit more sense to go introduce yourself to someone, because that there's a reason that you're both in this place. It's probably because you both share some interests.
Yeah. I've just joined the run club that Kurt's been one of the many that Kurt's been a member of. And that's absolutely the case. The people there, both men and women, everybody is very much, very friendly, very welcoming. They're looking for ways to connect with people, especially new members in the group. And so, yeah, yes, we have, the running in common. But most of these people are like training for marathons. I'm like, yeah, I'm squeaking out a 5K. Yeah. And like, I met one guy last night. He's running a marathon in every state, and he's done 20 of them. He's done 20 of them already. Yeah. And he's doing another. And I thought it was I thought it was a great idea. Because he's going to see places that he never would have imagined he'd go to, but he's got a reason to do it because he's going for a marathon. So he'll go for like a weekend.
That's
and hang
wild.
out there and stuff. So yeah, good guy, Lance.
I wonder if he's done Rhode Island yet, and if you just have to do 2 laps around the whole state.
His next one is actually Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and he's like, I've never been to Delaware. I'm like, neither have I. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go, but exactly. I feel like if, you've got, if you've niched down and you're doing a very, you basically are in a common place. Yeah. You've already established that rapport because everybody knows you guys have the same kind of interest level. At a minimum, you're going to have something in common, and then everything can kind of build from there.
Yeah. So I would say, whether you've decided that, approach is something that you are open to or you're not open to, the main message that I think the book is trying to convey, guys, and they even have a whole case study on this, where there's a girl and a guy that meet each other online and they're getting along well. She likes him, but then she gets approached, at a subway station or something by just some guy who says, hey, I like your dress. I like that color or whatever. and instantly her attraction for the guy that she's already talking to goes down because she doesn't know if he's confident. Where this guy was willing to just blurt out, in public, not knowing her, hey, I like the color of your dress. And the guy that she's, just started seeing, she doesn't know if he's a confident guy or not because they met online. So I guess one of the things we have to ask ourselves as men who are, if we're looking to meet women is what can we do if we're not willing to, or we're not in places where we think it makes sense to cold approach women. How can we communicate that confidence in ways that will still translate? And I would argue that there are ways to do that, even with online dating, that they may not seem completely clear or intuitive. One of those things is in either your profile or your first communication, be willing to make a joke or a reference to something that other people might not be willing to make. And so this is going to be one of the things that Mark Manson talks about in his book Models is, you've got to be willing to be polarizing. You've got to be willing to say and do things that either some people will think are really interesting or funny or bold. And some people will react to by saying, oh, that's not my kind of guy. And, and I'm not just talking about making a crude or dirty joke. I'm just saying making an observation about the world or about a potential dating partner or about yourself in a way that other people typically don't do. Something that says you're willing to push the sort of the norms of expected behavior. That is a way that you can communicate confidence that people find attractive.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, yeah, you did that on one of the versions of your dating profile, I believe, when you mentioned your waxing practices. What was it that you said?
Boy, that was a little while ago. Yeah, something. So at the time, I was getting a manzillion. I was getting,
that's right. You were getting a free one from that place that was just going to start offering them,
That's right. That's right. Yes, that's right. They wanted a test dummy for the man's Brazilian. And I was like, yeah, all right, I'll do it. I had a pretty good experience, and I kept up with it for a while. But I am no longer getting the manzillions.
But you were willing to reference that on your public dating profile, which a lot of people would not do. Which I think is great.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody really, and everybody I met, nobody really mentioned that, ironically. So it's not
so
like,
so ironically. Yeah. I mean, it's very rare that even when you have a business, your customers are not going to come out and tell you spontaneously, here's all the reasons that I keep coming back to your shop.
Fair. Right. I
mean, and in online dating, you're not gonna send everybody a Survey Monkey link to say, hey, why did you
that's a great idea. I love it. Survey Monkey.
Yeah, you can set up a free survey, I suppose, if you're doing online dating. Every time you match with someone, your opener is please click on this link and fill out this survey while you swiped right on me.
Hey, I welcome constructive criticism. I need some feedback.
All right. So, so let's see what else this book, this chapter covers. So, one of the things is obviously you're not going to have a chance with a girl unless you decide to interact with her on some level. One of the mistakes that a lot of men make, because it's easier, it lessens the chance of rejection. It seems like it would be a good idea based on messaging that we receive from media and love stories and stuff is, I'll make friends with her first. And then after we're friends, I will push to get something more than friendship. Right.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, I've certainly unsuccessfully attempted that. And, I've had some success in that area as well, but there's a big difference. My current girlfriend and I were friends. We were acquaintances, then we were friends and very close friends, and then we started dating. But I didn't go into it with the goal of I'm going to be her friend so that somewhere down the road I can be her boyfriend. It was more of, this is a very attractive, funny girl that I'd like to hang out with and be friends with, because for my own dating prospects, having a hot, funny friend is good. That, because they have hot, funny friends, and because it lets you practice dealing with girls that are very attractive and things like that. So, there's lots of good reasons to have girls who are just your friends. But the worst reason is because you think, okay, if I become her friend, then I will transition it to something else. In my experience and in my conversations with my buddies, it only works when it happens kind of by accident. You know what I mean? If you go into a friendship with that agenda, your friendship is not going to be a very good one, and your relationship is probably never going to happen.
Yeah. And I think the biggest reason for that is, the girl will figure it out.
Oh, absolutely.
They will know. They are so much more attuned to body language and tone and behavior, so much more than men are. They will know what your true intention is, and you're going to look weak because it's going to look like you are too much of a weak person to actually come out and say, hey, I'm interested in you in a romantic way. I'm pretending to be a friend, but my behavior is showing something different. So there's two problems with that. Is one, it makes you look weak and you don't have the guts to talk to her and be honest with her. But two, because you're not being honest with her, you're being dishonest. And now she can't trust you because you're lying constantly to yourself, to her, to the world around you. And now you're not trustworthy. And that's the biggest no-no when it comes to, connecting with anybody is trust, first of all, in any type of relationship. And second of all, now they don't feel safe, right? Now, if you can't trust somebody, you really don't feel totally safe around them. And now you're going to come at some point, you're going to burst and have some, big epiphany right before cause she's telling you about all these guys that she's attracted to, and you're being their friend. And, I think there's probably an example in the book, or that where the guy is being her friend and she's interested in another guy, and he finally comes out and says something to her and he's like, oh no, it's like, no, I don't want to ruin the friendship. And so yeah. There's nothing good that comes out of trying to come in with deceptive motive and trying to be the friend.
And that's a brutal conversation because, you finally spill your guts to this girl to tell her that you're attracted to her and you want to date. And she's like, I don't want to ruin our friendship. And you're thinking in your own head, I didn't even want this friendship in the first place. I'm only here because I knew that we would eventually get to this conversation. So, and that is a dishonest and disingenuous thing to do to somebody to make them feel like you're, I have a joke every Valentine's Day that I post on social media where I say, shout out to all the girls who got over the top romantic gifts from guys they thought they were just friends with. Because
I've been guilty of that when I was younger.
I have too. I mean, when I was in high school, that was the thing. I would use the excuse of Valentine's Day to tell this girl I had a crush on that I had a crush on her. And I'd get her, some chocolate or something stupid like that and think that, everything's going to work out great. And it never did. So, that's the, and there is a bit of a speaking of high school, there is a bit of a sliding scale as far as how doomed the strategy is. The older you get, the more doomed it is. The younger you and the girl are, and the less experienced you both are, there may be a little bit more wiggle room when you're, young and in middle school or high school for something like this. But yeah, the older you get and the more attractive the woman is, the less likely this is to work.
Yeah.
Because again, the older she is and the more attractive she is, the more she's had to deal with reading men's intentions, because so few of us will actually just come out and say what's on our mind, what our goal is, what's on our agenda. So the more skilled she has to be in trying to detect what a guy's looking for, even though he's not willing to say. All right. So let's talk about some of these more direct approaches that can work. The more willing you are to talk to a woman with some sort of a connection to the environment that you're both in. Again, whether that's, your favorite coffee shop or the Spanish club that you're in, or the dance class you're in, or the run club that you're in, the more you're able to talk to her in a way that ties in the mutual experience that you're sharing, the more likely, you are to have some sort of a fruitful interaction, right? So, if you're in your favorite little organic grocery store and you're, able to say, hey, do you know where the macadamia nut butter is, or something like that, then that is a more reasonable way to start a conversation than walking up to her and asking her what her sign is, or if it hurt when she fell from heaven, that kind of nonsense that, women, just generally speaking, they don't like and they don't respond to. I mean, pickup lines are not effective as just saying hi, hello, or asking a question about your current shared experience. Now there's a caveat to that, to say, if you're attractive enough, it really almost doesn't matter what you say. And I'm not just talking about your looks or your height or your hair or anything like that. A big component of being attractive enough is going to be how you approach them, as far as walking confidently, making eye contact, speaking with a clear, deep voice, things like that. But also your physical appearance and how you're dressed will be a factor as well. So if you're one of those people that, number one, what you're doing, and number two, you got lucky with the genetic lottery, you can walk up to a girl and almost say anything that comes out of your mouth and have a better shot than somebody who either doesn't have those natural breaks or hasn't, thought about cultivating a first impression the way we've talked about the last few weeks with this book. So, a big thing is have the confidence to start the conversation if you want to, and if that's the way you want to go. And I think the author makes good arguments for why you should be open to that. But, the confidence and what kind of effort you've put into grooming your first impression and your appearance will be a factor. And so what you say matters less than taking the steps to say something in a good environment for that. One of the examples they offer here is in the gym, and the gym, and another case study references a waitress while she's at work. And this is where I will diverge from the author, where I will say, for the most part, do not approach women at the gym unless she is giving you very clear indicators of interest that she wants to talk to you. And I would even say, unless a girl starts a conversation with me at the gym, I'm not going to talk to her, because I'm not at the gym to meet girls. I'm at the gym to be at the gym. And I find, if that's true about me, that's probably true about her too. So the idea of interrupting a girl mid squat or mid whatever those things are that they do, where they lay the barbell across their waist and they raise it,
thrust,
yes,
the crotch thrust, yes.
Listen,
I in my experience is I've never heard a woman go, oh yeah, I met this great guy at the gym. Like, I've never heard that conversation before. It's always been like, I'm trying to work out, and this guy came over, and, I told him I had a boyfriend, even if she didn't, and he kept talking to me. It's nothing but complaints from girls when I've overheard them talking about their interactions at the gym. Same thing, on subways and stuff like that. A lot of times, yes. What they'll wear, earphones to, and the big ones to say, hey, don't bother me. And, they still get, bothered and stuff like that. So, at the gym, I agree. Leave people alone.
I totally do it at, if I'm walking around downtown Orlando trying to get some steps in, I'll listen, I'll put my AirPods in and I'll listen to something. Number one, because I want to listen to something. And number two, it does seem like some people are a little bit less likely to interrupt you. And really, again, because I'm in a relationship, there's no reason I want to talk to somebody when I'm on a walk in downtown Orlando. I don't want a woman to express interest in me, nor do I want someone to ask me for directions or ask me to give them $1. So my attitude is, if my AirPods are in, it's because I'm into what I'm listening to. And so I assume that from everybody else as well. If they have their AirPods in, it's because they're more interested in whatever they're choosing to listen to than whatever random thing I can come up with to get them to interact with me. So I would say, yeah, if somebody is in the middle of if somebody's got AirPods in, and this even apply. I used to work at a company where a lot of, a whole department, all these guys did was code all day. And if they were working at their computer without this was headphones back then, not AirPods. If they, didn't have them in, then I could go and talk to them and say, hey, what are you guys thinking about for lunch? But if I would walk through their department and everybody's got their earphones in, it's like, okay, I am not, I will come back later when I'm not going to be disturbing them.
Right. It is right. I was about to say it's the modern do not disturb sign.
Yes, exactly. The door. And, okay. So yeah, generally our advice, which you can choose to follow or ignore, is whether you're at the gym or on the subway, if a girl has something in her ear that's making noise, she wants that more than the noise you are capable of making. Now, that may not be true. It may be worth the risk, but proceed at your own, discretion.
Yeah, I'm looking at it like body language, right? If somebody's sitting there with their arms crossed, the same thing to me is they have earpods in, right? They don't want to engage. They're not open. Whereas if somebody's sitting there in an open position, they're welcome to receiving some sort of connection, right? Exactly. That's how I treat it, and I look at it as body language.
Yeah. So here are some of the effective lines that they do mention if you want to start a conversation with somebody in an environment where you feel like it makes sense. Okay. Hi, hello. Those are both good ones and pretty easy. One that Dr. Glover also mentioned in Data Essentials for Men was there was a guy who was down in at his place in Mexico attending one of his workshops. And if you're at a restaurant eating alone and you see a woman who's also eating alone, I've never done this, but I feel less self-conscious about asking if she'd like to eat together. I don't know. I don't know if I would ever do that.
Why is that?
I never have, but I don't know, because I mean, part of it is I feel like I'm good company. And so if I'm alone and single and she's alone and possibly single, I do feel like I would, and again, maybe this is because I'm a narcissist, I feel like I would make her dinner more pleasant by eating with her than not. And so for some reason, that one doesn't give me the heebie-jeebies quite as much as walking up to a woman in a bar would.
Yeah, no, that I could see that for sure. So what kinds of things would you want to talk to her about?
I'd probably lead off with who she thinks was really behind 9/11 and just go from there. No,
always a strong point to start with.
Do you think jet fuel melts steel beams? Yes or no? I don't know. My technique on first dates is always to go, to mix between very casual and very heavy, because I feel like it makes things interesting for me. And that's what I care about most, is having an interesting conversation. So, where'd you grow up and what do you do for work? And also, what do you think happens when you die? Things like that, is there any political view that
keep it light?
If there's is there any political view I could express to you right now that would make you get up and leave? I like asking that question a lot. And because, look, if the answer is yes, I want to find that out, 15 minutes into a first date, not 6 weeks later.
That's fair.
So I like a mix of heavy and light, but yeah. So other good questions. Do you want to dance? That's a good one, which I've never asked a girl to dance.
And girls who have asked you to dance, you've shot them down pretty quickly. And when we were going to a couple of dances ourselves for some of the ballroom stuff, that was not your favorite thing. That ran you right out of the room a couple times.
I hate being asked to dance, and I hate saying no to being asked to dance too. I hate saying yes more, but I hate everything about the whole process. So that's why I don't go. God, I hate it so much. There's nothing about that scenario that appeals to me. Having this, having to say yes, even the way that I'm phrasing it, having to say yes to being asked to dance is not the way people who love dancing refer to it.
So I think it really just comes down to, not being confident enough in one of the dances. So, I mean, you're pretty good with swing. So what if someone came to you and said, hey, let's do,
absolutely.
would you like to do some swing?
No, I would still hate it. I don't know that, God, I feel like I'll never have that level of confidence. I mean, maybe
I feel like you were close.
If I
before you stopped.
If people were handing me trophies because I was so good at it, maybe, and not participation trophies, real trophies. If I was getting trophies for being so good at it, maybe I would think, okay, I'm good enough at this to say yes to someone asking me to dance. But God, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I am a little tempted to take the, the first class was last night, so never mind. I was going to say I was tempted to take the tango class down at Celebration that Nanette and Dale are teaching, but.
Well, you can catch up. They'll catch you up if you just miss one. If you're only going to miss one, it's worth, still going, I think.
Maybe I'll think about it. I don't know. But anyway, okay. The other thing I did want to, so generally speaking, if you're one of those mid-level attractive guys like me and Dan, where you're not in a camp where you have no hope whatsoever, and you're not in a camp where everything's going to be easy for you because you won the genetic lottery. If you're in the middle, then you should focus on saying things that are better as opposed to things that are worse. So cheesy pickup lines are not a way to go for leading off a conversation with a woman. I would say either online or in real life. So avoid those.
I mean, I'm going to say, unless you can kind of make fun of yourself for saying it and show some confidence through that and kind of, follow that up with making a joke about it. I feel like you could use that to your advantage. If you're not coming in with that as being the serious type of, you're expecting a serious response, you could make light of that. You could rattle off like 2 or 3 in a row, make a little joke about it. What's your favorite pickup line? You never know, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're still, unless you can mix it up in an interesting way where you're not instantly going to be categorized with a lot of guys who've done the same thing. You gotta figure out a way to do it in a way that nobody has done before. Which is difficult and polarizing. I mean, throwing out what's a girl like you doing in a nice place like this could be funny, but it also could be very offensive.
I don't know. It's a compliment, it's, not offensive to who? To the owner of the place?
No, that's and see, this is part of the risk you run. You didn't hear me say what I actually said. Yeah. It was, what's a girl like you doing in a nice place like this?
Oh, that's funny. I didn't hear the nice place. I didn't hear the nice part. I think that blipped that. I thought I just heard place like this, and right, so I was thinking that the place, it was a dive bar. Yeah.
No, the cookie cutter line is, what's a nice girl hysterical. Like you doing in a place like this?
The nice part cut out. That's so funny. Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's funny. That's good.
Like the way to switch it is,
it's like you doing in a nice place like this.
What's a terrible girl like you doing in a nice place like this?
See, that would be nice. So after you've talked to somebody, you could kind of fit that in as a little, if she gets a little rambunctious, a little rowdy, you kind of tease her a little bit with that. I think, a little bit later, I don't know about opening in the conversation.
Well, again, it's risky. So if she has a good sense of humor, maybe she'll love it. Yeah. But if she doesn't, you're done before you even start. So, right. Okay, let's talk about, the next case study is about hitting on a waitress, which I would say do not do, because, I mean, hitting on might be a negative connotation. Just approaching would be a better way to say it without quite as much negative bias built in. Approaching a woman that you work with is bad for numerous reasons, or at least could lead to complications that you may or may not want. approaching a woman who's at her job where you are a customer or a client is even more difficult because she's being paid a wage or a salary to be there. Approaching a woman who is at a job where how much money she brings home to pay the rent is dependent upon her being nice to people is probably the worst case scenario. Because trying to determine whether this gal is being nice to you because she's attracted to you or because it's her job to be nice to you so that you'll tip her and she'll be able to pay her bills is really, really tough. I mean, we've all been, I'm sure most guys have been to a restaurant where they've had a really proficient waitress who made it difficult for you to think, made it easy for you to think, I think this girl might like me. She's being so nice. And, there is a risk to that because then you're going to put her in a position where the opposite of being nice is telling a guy that she's not interested in going out on a date. And so the second you ask her out, you're putting her into that position of maybe she says yes, or more likely she now has to do what many guys feel like is the meanest thing possible, which is say no to your offer of a date. And so as a result, some guys will do things to mitigate this risk by, asking their friend to ask her out for them, leaving a note with your phone number. There's a lot of things that guys really think is a good idea for how to ask somebody out in a way that might help the rejection hurt a little bit less, that instead of that gets them labeled as a creep or a ew or a cuck or whatever word you don't like that can apply to weak men. These methods that you think will minimize your odds of rejection are more likely to get you labeled with a label you don't want.
Now, I mean, I think it was this book, it might have been Glover talking about the fact is that when a woman is interested in you, they will make it obvious and they will create most of the situations and opportunities for you to engage with them. Whether it's them kind of being around you a little bit more, looking over at you, wanting you to pursue them. I would be curious to talk to a few waitresses, or people in the service industry. What kinds of things have they done when they do see somebody? I'm sure they see customers that they are interested in and would like to move things, to the next level with. I would be really curious to have a conversation with somebody to find out, okay, what are some of the things that they've done to try to get guys to notice them?
Well, I happen to have access to a gal who was a bartender for 10, 12 years. And
okay. And
I know.
Okay. She shared these types of this information with you.
We haven't had that conversation before, but we can. And I will ask her to say, okay, tell me how your behavior was different from, I want to be nice to this guy so that, I'll get a decent tip from him versus I want to be nice to this guy so he knows I'd like him to ask me out. And so
specifically, I have a question to ask her.
Okay.
When a waitress then basically signs her name and puts a little smiley face on the check, what does that mean? What is that? Is that just, hey, I'm flirting with you, I want a big tip, or I'm interested in more than just a tip?
I think that means that I think I can tell you what that means, Dan. That means that her trainer at Hooters told her to write the little smiley face inside the heart.
It's so, in all fairness, it's happened to me at other places other besides Hooters. So,
all right, fair enough.
So
okay, I will ask her. I'll ask her how she. Yeah, I'll ask her how she.
What's the move?
Yes, what she would do to communicate to a guy that she was interested.
Or even somebody she works with. So if she doesn't want to say, if she just, don't be like, hey, what did you do? Just, some of the girls that you worked with, you know what I'm saying? So,
yes,
cause maybe some of it's a little bit, embarrassing or not really that she doesn't really want to talk about. So I would ask her, hey,
I'm not worried about that. And neither
what are some of the strategies you've seen used, Yeah.
yeah. And again, fortunately, because her and we were close friends before we started dating. And so we know a lot about each other's dating history and stuff like that. So I don't think either one of us will be uncomfortable with talking about, back when you were single and, even when we were friends and you were occasionally dating guys that were your customers, what went into, like, how did that work out successfully for the guy versus, how did it work out when a guy was just, you were being friendly and he thought you were interested. What did those two things look like? So I will definitely ask her about that and come to the next episode with some details. Cause I think that it'll
awesome.
I'll enjoy hearing about it and I'll enjoy talking about it with you next time too. In fact, you and I will talk about it perhaps tonight at, when we go to Boca, this evening, although no, she's working all day today. So I won't be able to talk to her until you and I see each other. But then, yeah, certainly if we have breakfast tomorrow or something, I'll ask her about it. That'll be fun. I can't wait to mine my personal relationship for some insights for our podcast. That should be fun. Okay, great. So let's stop for now. We're going to next week. We're going to get into body language and how to notice and understand things like eye contact, smiling, when a woman preens herself, when she touches your arm while you're talking, and what all these sort of what the levels of escalation are and what they each mean, and how sure you can be that it means that she's interested based on the kind of body language that she's putting off. So I think this will be a pretty good chapter that all of us, even those of us who are not into approaching women cold, can still get some stuff out of. All right.
Yeah,
anything
I am
else?
disappointed he did not go over I'm a little disappointed he did not go over what a smiley face on your check means. So,
all right. Well, when we write our book, we can put it in there.
This next book.
All right, cool, Dan. I'll talk to you next time. All right.
All right, man. Have a good one. Talk to you later.
Take it easy. Bye.